killed him, he turned them all.
You don't understand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Talking Thrones. Once again, I am joined by GrayArea, and today we are going to finish our predictions for Jon Snow. This was a 3-part series, so if you did not see the other 2 videos about Jon, make sure you go check those out first, then come back to this one. This will be our last installment for our Jon Snow predictions, so let's just pick up right where we left off. The last thing I asked GrayArea was what it was going to take to actually be able to defeat the Night King. If Jon does ride Rhaegal, which I think he will, I hope he does, and I think he's going to need to, because we saw how easily Viserion was taken down, and if Daenerys' dragons are just up flying around in the sky by themselves, and you have the Night King on his dragon attacking them, and possibly all of his White Walker lieutenants chucking javelins at him, they could probably take the other ones down just as easily. So I would like to think both of those dragons need a rider to prevent that from happening. And it would be better because Jon could actually control the dragon and have more direct dragon fire placed in the locations that they needed, other than just having the dragon fly around and just light fire wherever. So do you think that would be enough to stop the Night King, or would Jon need a sword like Lightbringer or something else magical to actually be able to stop the Night King? Or do you think it's going to have to come down to us seeing another pact be made between the people and the others?
I do kind of think they're going to need everything. I don't think it will be enough. I think it is going to come down to all the legends, as skewed and mixed up as they are, they're all connected to the Children of the Forest. So I definitely think they have a huge part to play that hasn't been foreshadowed yet.
And we know the last hero wasn't able to stop the fighting during the Long Night until he was able to find the Children of the Forest.
Yes. And like all of the across the Narrow Sea, like all of those legends are like in some way related to the Children of the Forest. It all ties to the Children of the Forest. Or they don't call it the Long Night across the Narrow Sea. They call it a darkness or a coldness.
So you think there is Children of the Forest still alive?
Yes, definitely.
Where do you think they would be?
The God's Eye. The Isle of Faces.
So you think we'll definitely see something go down there and not just in the north?
So I don't know. I feel like every battle that's ever been fought that meant anything was in the Riverlands. So I feel like the show needs to end things in the Riverlands. And we also had that news that Corbett's castle, where they filmed River Run, is going to be in season 8. They've seen some film and action going on there. So the Riverlands has a big part to play. Also, there's a lot of foreshadowing with it, as far as the books go, with Daenerys riding to the Trident like Rhaegar, the usurper's host, armored in ice, and her bathing them in dragon fire.
Absolutely. And I've been wondering about the Children of the Forest, because I felt like there was definitely still some more, but in the show it seemed like the ones that died in the cave, Leaf and the other ones, they made it seem like those were the only ones, or at least the last ones left. And ever since then, I've been wondering if we're going to ever see them again. And then I've also been wondering if we technically still need the Children of the Forest, because Bran has now become pretty much the ultimate green seer. He's almost the most powerful one besides the Night King, who I think is still more powerful than Bran as of right now. But I think Bran will eventually overpower the Night King in the end. So taking all that into consideration, I'm wondering if there actually will be more Children of the Forest left in this show. And like you said, I think if there is, then they would have to be at the God's Eye, which is pretty much one of the only places we haven't seen of importance.
Yeah, that's where they would have to be. But you make a good point, about Bran, because now that he's a green seer and he knows how to access the weirwoods, when the children die, they become a part of the trees. Everything they knew becomes a part of the trees.
Yeah, definitely. And we have Samwell Tarly, which we talked about in our Bran Stark video. I think Sam will pretty much be the one as kind of like a stand-in for Bran figuring out how to learn all this stuff that he still needs to figure out, because when Bran was basically in his training inside the cave, it was the Children of the Forest and the Blood Raven who was being very subtle with what they wanted Bran to know. But now that they're gone, Sam will pretty much stand in for being Bran's almost like teacher, with showing him what happened in the past, where he would probably need to look to figure out how to stop the Night King now that the children are gone in the north, unless we see them in the God's Eye, like you say we possibly could.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but I think it's probably more of a possibility. Like what you're saying is they're just going to use Bran as like a representation of the children.
Absolutely. When all this takes place and we finally get this ultimate scene with Jon and whoever he has left on his team and Bran and Sam against the Night King, and it's that final showdown, how do you think that's going to end? Just in your guess. I know no one really knows, but just in your prediction, what do you think it's going to actually take to end this fighting? Would it have to be the Night King getting killed or a pact?
I think it's going to have to be the Night King getting killed, or the Night King losing every soldier that he has, because before they were never completely destroyed. They just fought them good enough to keep them, to send them fleeing to the lands of always winter. So I think it will probably be something more along those lines of them just not defeating them, but defeating them enough to where he knows he can't win and he leaves and retreats.
Yeah, I could see something like that too, if they don't end up killing him. But for some reason, I feel like at least that's how they're going to end it in the show. It's probably going to be this big, huge spectacle with Jon Snow and the Night King either sword fighting it out or on the dragons fighting it out 1v1, which I know you've talked about before. I feel like it's going to come down to that. And I think they actually need to kill the Night King this time so that this cycle doesn't continue in the future, 8,000 years later again or whatever. For them to finally end this threat, they're going to have to completely destroy all of the others.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I want to happen. I want to see, that's what I want to see happen. And I don't disagree that that's possible, but I like wonder, what is it going to take for Jon to be able to kill him? Like, I don't feel like a regular just Valyrian steel will kill him, or just dragon glass is just going to kill him. I think it's going to be a lot more complicated than that.
I don't think he could be killed by the same weapons that the White Walkers can be killed with, because we've seen them die by dragon glass and Valyrian steel, but we know the Night King is more powerful than them, and he was created with dragon glass. So I don't think dragon glass would be able to stop him. It would have to be either a dragon or some kind of crazy sword like Lightbringer. There's really not a whole lot of other evidence that point to a different weapon stopping him other than a dragon or a Lightbringer type sword.
I don't think fire really affects him.
I'm wondering if direct dragon fire raining on him would.
Or if Drogon eating him.
That would be crazy. Oh man, it'd just be like crunching on an ice cube.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
It seems like Bran is the person that he's afraid of, because he didn't want Bran to become the three-eyed raven. He wanted to kill Bran.
Yeah, he knows Bran is going to be his biggest threat.
And he didn't kill Jon. He had all these opportunities to kill Jon, and he didn't.
Absolutely.
He could have killed Jon at Hardhome. He could have killed Jon at Beyond the Wall.
Yeah, he could have threw one of those javelins until he eventually hit him.
And he could have, like when Jon fell into the lake, he was there when he fell into the lake.
Yeah, he had all of his men still there.
Went and right, the Night King went and got Viserion. Wonder why he didn't go and get Jon.
I don't know.
It's really weird.
Yeah, a lot of people have been wondering that question, because it does seem like he knows Jon in a way that Jon doesn't quite understand yet. And even when Beric Dondarrion pointed at the Night King and he said, "You take him down and the rest will fall." And Jon was like, "You don't understand." Almost like he knows it's going to be a little more than that. So there's definitely something going on between the Starks and the Night King, which we know in the books, the Night's King, who this character is based off of, is a Stark. So I'm wondering if the show is going to add something to that, to this character in the show with some kind of a Stark connection.
I do feel like that. I feel like once Sam and Bran put their minds together and are trying to find information out for Jon, we're going to find out a lot more. We're going to find out more than we ever knew about the White Walkers, whether it's book canon or not. We're going to find out the who, what, when, where, why, everything.
Do you think that will be the final WTF moment? The truth about the Night King, I should say?
I think it has potential to be the final WTF moment, but I kind of think the final WTF moment is going to have to do with Cersei.
Yeah, it could. That's actually goes into my next question. Assuming Jon survives this war against the Night King, how will Jon and Daenerys deal with Cersei? How do you think that's going to play out after they take care of the others, assuming they do?
I don't think he's going to have to take care of Cersei. I think Cersei's going to take care of herself. So I've said before, like, Cersei has a lot of parallels with the Mad King and also Maegor the Cruel. Now, a lot of people say that Jaime is going to kill Cersei, like the Mad King, sword in the back and all of that stuff. So that's very possible, but I also think that she could kill herself.
Do you think she would do that by blowing up the Great Hall, or just killing herself like we saw when the Battle of the Blackwater was going on and she was going to drink a potion?
Like that. So Maegor the Cruel was found with his wrists cut in the Iron Throne cut him. So I think Cersei could die like that, like some kind of suicide on the Iron Throne. Like, she'll be found dead on the Iron Throne when Jon comes.
I think we are going to see Cersei get to a level of desperation that we've never seen her get to before, because her last bit of hope is this baby that she says she has in her belly. And she has Euron Greyjoy, who is allegedly picking up the Golden Company for her right now. But a lot of people believe the Golden Company will eventually break their contract with Cersei in order to swear their fealty to one of the Targaryens. And if that happens, Cersei would no longer have Jaime. She would no longer have her reinforcements in the Golden Company. Her Lannister numbers have to be pretty small after the Field of Fire. And I believe she's going to lose the baby. So when all this happens and Cersei realizes she truly has nothing left, we're going to see her do something that she's never done before. She's going to be extremely desperate and almost capable of anything.
Yeah, she is. And she's going to be lower than she was when she did that walk of shame. Like, she's going to be lower than that because she doesn't have her kids anymore. She doesn't have anyone anymore. She's isolated and she's going to be out of her mind. And when she's going to feel those, once the Night King's defeated and Jon has to deal with her, that's assuming that he's going to deal with her after the Night King. And she's going to feel like the walls closing in on her. And she's going to, I think she's going to take her own life.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. She's definitely going to feel those walls closing in on her, because all she's really going to have left is, if the Golden Company does betray her and break that contract and go north, she won't have anything left but a few Lannister men, and I don't even know if Euron would still be willing to stick around after that, because at some point he would have to realize that he's on the losing side. He would eventually leave her, because even in season 7, when Cersei was talking to the representative from the Iron Bank, he was talking about how her ships that she had wasn't hers, they were the Ironborns, and Cersei was like, Euron Greyjoy swears fealty to me, and the guy from the Golden Company was like, basically, yeah, but for how long?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I could see her getting to that point, to that desperate point to where she feels like she has no other way out.
Yep, I can definitely see that happening, and I would actually, that's how I would like her to go.
Do you think we will see the throne room look like it did in Dany and Bran's vision? Will we see the throne room look like that in the end?
I do think so. And I think you made the best point when you said, because a lot of people were saying it was wildfire and how wildfire would like just destroy it.
Yeah.
Like, this looks like it's not destroyed. It's only the roof is destroyed.
Uh-huh.
So that definitely looks like dragon fire.
Yeah, it does, because it's only in the roof. The ground and the throne and the pillars and everything else seem to be intact, and it just looks like it was a fire from above.
Right. So it's hard to say, is it the Night King's dragon or is it one of Daenerys' dragons? If the Night King's all the way in King's Landing, then they're like effed.
If the Night King makes it to King's Landing, then I'm assuming Winterfell was pretty much ran over.
Yeah. Or he didn't go to Winterfell. He bypassed it.
Yeah.
Which I doubt. I think because of everything we know from filming, there's definitely going to be something going on at Winterfell.
Mm-hmm.
And that would mean that Storm's End is left. Storm's End will still be left because I think that's more southern than King's Landing. But also Dragonstone will still be standing. The Children of the Forest carved those paintings in the Cave of Dragonglass at Dragonstone. But there's like no weirwoods at Dragonstone. Dragonstone is basically like a rock. So what were Children of the Forest doing at Dragonstone?
I'm guessing the only reason why they would have went there is just to get the dragon glass.
Oh, okay.
And they probably just left all those
sense.
They probably just left all those paintings so when people found it, they would eventually realize what that stuff down there was needed for, what was eventually going to come.
True. I find it hard to believe that the Night King is just going to come and sweep through each kingdom, because if he's at King's Landing, that means he's went through the whole entire north. He's went through the Riverlands, and he's at King's Landing.
Yeah, and that would either mean Jon and Dany and everybody died, or they had to retreat a hell of a lot farther south than they probably intended on.
And that means the Night King's army grew a hell of a lot bigger.
Yeah, that would probably mean everybody at Carhold, the Dreadfort, White Harbor,
Winterfell.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere from Eastwatch.
Harrenhal, River Run.
Yeah, pretty much every building from Eastwatch to King's Landing, he could potentially turn into his army. And if that happens, I don't see them winning. I just don't know if they would be able to stop him if they allowed him to gain that much momentum. They're going to need to stop him before that, I think.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Do you think Jon and Dany will be able to win 2 wars, one against the Night King and potentially one against Cersei?
Yes. A lot of people will say that Daenerys is Nissa and Jon is Azor Ahai, and Jon's going to have to sacrifice Daenerys and sacrifice Ghost and all that stuff. I think they are going to be alive. I know 100% that Jon isn't dying.
Mm-hmm.
Daenerys, I'm like 80% sure she's not dying. When you think about it, the Song of Ice and Fire is Jon, but the Song of Ice and Fire is also Daenerys as well. The story is about them, and I can't see them two not getting at least a bittersweet ending.
I agree with you about Jon. I do believe Jon will survive. Although for a long time I didn't. I thought Jon would eventually do some kind of sacrifice to ensure that everybody else would survive. But now I'm more leaning to the side that Jon will live, and I think Dany will die. I think if one of them dies, it's going to be Dany in some way. And there's a lot of different theories going around about why, whether that's Nissa, her dying during childbirth, the Night King killing her while she's on Drogon. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that could happen, other than like a sacrifice for herself too. But I think if it's one of them, it would be Dany.
I feel like if I had to choose between them two, who was gonna die, I would say it was her. Yeah. Because I'm 100% sure that Jon Snow is not dying.
I hope you're right.
I was also 100% sure. This is just a disclaimer. I was also 100% sure that he wasn't gonna die in season 5, and he died.
Yeah, but he came back. So you was right and wrong, I guess.
Right.
He died, but not for long. Okay, so I do want to ask something else kind of pertaining to that. What do you think will happen after the Night King and Cersei are dealt with? Who would then be in control after that? Would it be Jon or Dany? We know Jon has the rightful claim because he is a legitimate Targaryen, but would Jon allow Dany to keep that title? Or do you think they would rule together, or would there be an entire committee? How do you think that would play out after these wars are finished?
Jon and Daenerys will be tired of fighting, tired of conquering. Like George is he's a fan of Tolkien, and he's inspired by the Lord of the Rings. We know that there's a lot of the Lord of the Rings stuff in here. And I feel like Jon is Frodo from Lord of the Rings. Like he's going to be too damaged from everything that's happened to him so far to want to rule the Seven Kingdoms. I don't feel like he's going to care about that. The only way he's going to rule the Seven Kingdoms is if it's imperative that he does. If he doesn't have to, or if he could put someone else in power, then I feel like that's what he would do. I ultimately think that the best king for Westeros would probably be Tyrion or Davos.
Yeah, those are two good candidates.
But I don't think it'll be Jon, and I also think that Daenerys is going to be I don't think she's going to care about it either.
She probably won't, although that's what highly motivates her still, is wanting to claim her power and her position as the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. But ultimately, in the end, after all this is over, I think she would realize that for the wheel to actually be broken, she can't have it both ways and her still be the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, but break all those old traditions too at the same time. They would need to come up with some other way to basically distribute the power instead of having one person control everything in Westeros.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I'm at. I kind of agree that she is a spoke on the wheel. So it has to be broken. For it to be broken, she has to, she can't be the queen either.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe the ending will be that they move away from like this feudalism society. They get out of it and kind of get into like a democratic republic or whatever, and have an election.
I think so, and I think Jon would probably help influence Dany's decision and wanting to do that too. And we know Tyrion already kind of mentioned that last season with about how the Ironborn do their electing and stuff like that. So it's kind of already being put in place. And Tyrion also tried to remind her that you might want to break the wheel now, but you have to put things in place to ensure that it would stay broken in the future. Earlier in the video, in part 1, I asked you if you believe Daenerys was pregnant with Jon's child, which we both agreed 100% she is pregnant. By the end of all of this, do you think she will actually give birth to his child?
Yes. There will be a Jon and Daenerys baby. And she will give birth to it.
What do you think they would name it?
A boy or a girl?
Both. Like, either one.
I would like to think if it's a boy, they would name it Eddard.
Uh-huh.
And if it's a girl, they would name her Lyanna.
Would they give it the Targaryen name? And the reason why I want to ask that real quick is because something we both made videos about and we both talked about is what are the Starks going to do with having an heir in the future, because none of them have any kids right now. Jon's last name isn't Stark. What are they going to do to ensure that there is a Stark in Winterfell in the future?
Yeah.
Jon would have to give his baby the Stark name, or the show's going to have to end with some type of imply that Sansa or Arya will eventually be in some kind of a relationship and have a kid.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy because if you don't name it Targaryen, the Targaryen line dies as well.
Yeah, that's where it's a real dilemma. because both of those lines are on the verge of extinction if there is no heir.
They hyphenate the last name, Targaryen Stark.
That would be pretty cool.
But I don't know if they do that in those times.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to, now that you say that, I'm trying to think if somebody ever carried two last names in the books, and I don't really remember ever seeing it like that. But I could be wrong. Could be in the history and lore or something.
Well, you know, they made those branches like Karstarks.
That's right. Yep. So we could see a Stargaryen or something like that, which a lot of people think and would like, because I know that's been like a kind of like a running joke or like a running thing you would see on a T-shirt, Stargaryen. So yeah, bringing up Karstark, that's a good point. We could see something like that to where it takes on both names. And can you imagine the family that would be born from that kid of having all Targaryen and Stark genes? Like, that'd be a hell of a
total badass.
Yeah, that'd be a nice line. Yeah, I kind of like that idea, and I kind of would like to see them do something like that. And if they're going to break the wheel, they could start doing that and giving it to like a hyphenated type name.
Yeah, definitely. But if I had to choose between Targaryen or Stark, Stark.
All day.
Name it Stark. Like, if you have to pick, I'm picking Stark.
Absolutely, I would too. And I think this is a very good place to end the video. I think we've pretty much covered every topic with Jon Snow, at least most of the big things that I think we could see with him. And for that, I thank you for joining me, Gray. I appreciate everyone who is listening to this video and liking this video and leaving comments. I really appreciate that. And I want to thank GrayArea for joining me. Thanks a lot, Gray. I really enjoyed talking to you about Jon Snow.
Thanks. I appreciate you for bringing me on your channel. I love when we have these discussions because we're not going off a script. We're just talking. And that's when great things happen.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. And I want to thank everybody for joining me. I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for supporting both of our channels. And I hope to see everybody in the next one. Bye.